Hi everyone, this is Cherry Enchantress with Pixie Dust Tarot, and this is your daily dust for Saturday, January 20th. And if you're watching in real time, but also for whenever you stumble upon it, you might be like many that want to watch it on consecutive days, and that's perfectly fine. Sometimes there's an interesting segue from one day to the next, and oftentimes not. Sometimes it's just for a particular day, and sometimes the energy is a little bit before and a little bit after, and sometimes it projects something far off into the future. So it's a lot like astrology, where the energies could be for a certain period of time. And the daily dust means this is my daily sprinkling of magic. So it's a 3-card tarot pool, and I'm using my deck, the Enchanted Romance tarot that I created using pre-Raphaelite artwork. So let's see what we get for today. Whoa. The King of Swords fell down. Huh. Alright. And lost his crown. Okay. Let's do some more shuffling. Normally I take off the top. So let's see what happens. Oh, okay. So maybe I should shuffle. I didn't do that on purpose. Maybe he was meant to be. Well, just remember him. Okay, you think he's still on the top? Yeah. Alright. He's meant to be on there. Then we have the Six of Swords. And the Page of Cups. Let's zoom on in and get a great message. So my deck is geared toward romance and, of course, as you can tell in the title, and twin flame and soulmate relationships. And the King of Swords represents the authority figure, and he's all about control. He's a leader type. This is a man of genius or woman, an expertise. And I often think of Geminis, but it's Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius. But I noticed one thing about Geminis that they really like is a person who is an expert at their field and has an expertise. They like light up when somebody says, I'm an expert. Well, you have to prove you're an expert. You can't just say that you are. So when they find out somebody's an expert, or somebody talks a lot about something, they seem very knowledgeable, the Gemini really perks up and listens. But the Gemini themselves could also be an expert, an expert, have an expertise at something. And this could be you or somebody that you're connecting with. This air king can be very firm, but also fair. They have a bit of a judge quality about them, and it could be that you're facing a judge, or maybe not on this day, but at some time, or you could be judging yourself. You could feel like you're around people who judge you, but sometimes it feels like a fair judgment, and other times it feels biased or unfair. But when you're dealing with the King of Swords, you're going to get a fair judgment. It's about balance and seeing both sides of things, as in the Libra energy. They demand high standards. They have a high morality, very calm, uncompromising, powerful, truthful, decisive, and they have a strong focus on their purpose. They're very realistic, so they may be in their heads a lot, but that's not usually like head in the clouds kind of thing. It's just the wheels are spinning. And yeah, they take in their surroundings through their minds, through their head, before their hearts. But they are very able and, they're very able to use their hearts. It's just though their method is just slightly different than some people's. Or let's say feminines, feminines generally lead with their heart, but not all, So I do sense sort of a masculine quality here, whether it's a female or male. Just high quality person here. Somebody who has a wonderful character. Somebody you can really trust. Somebody you look up to. And then the Six of Swords represents a transition of some sort. This is the rites of passage. I love especially using Ophelia for this image, even though Ophelia is represents, you know, passing away. She's, and maybe a little bit of sadness. The image, this particular image to me invokes like a ride, a slow canoe ride. That's what it is. Like, I don't see it so much as the character as the canoe. And so the canoe ride is floating down the stream, carried by the current, not by the person rowing. There's no rower. Like you'll see in the Six of Swords, oftentimes it's a bunch of, you know, like a family, or at least a woman or one person being rowed by another person. And in that sense, that the person who's riding is kind of surrendering to the trip, to the to the flow of and to the direction of the person that's propelling them. In this case, it's almost just plain nature, you know, surrendering to the flow of. In this deck, it's kind of like, to me, it's like in the twin flame journey, it's letting go and acceptance, a radical acceptance. Sometimes a radical acceptance is almost like an out-of-body experience. It's just like really letting the current move you. And on a very simple way, like this is a very deep way to, I watched a very deep, it felt deep anyway, a musical last night, but the story is pretty deep, where I saw layers to it that applies to real life. And so in art and performance and all of those things in life, you can see life, your life in art, right? You can see life played out through art forms, music, dance, paintings, things like that. And when I look at artwork or my tarot, I often see like, suddenly the pictures come alive and they start moving for me and they tell me a story. So it's almost like sometimes they're very still, and sometimes it's like they get up and they do something, or they continue. It's almost like the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot, the before and after. You know, you have the traditional tarot, and then you have a deck that shows you what happened next. You know, the next picture. What would that look like? I need to get that one. It's kind of fun. I think there's a before one as well. It'd be fun to get the before and after. But the point I'm trying to make is that I get really deep sometimes, and then other times it could be just something very simple, like you're going to be dealing with somebody like an air sign, or this is you. You might be traveling, and traveling, it could be just a small little trip down the street, you know, even to somebody's that you like, you know, or somebody's going to come pick you up and take you on a date or something. I mean, that's the simple version of this, but for some reason, Spirit's getting me to interpret this in a deeper way. Kind of like, I find often like channeling messages from Spirit when I'm dealing with tarot. I realize that oftentimes when people say, how do you do that? And I'm like, it's a mix of things. It's a mix of messages from a higher source. It's it's my higher intuition. It's the images talking to me as well, and then the words talking to me. But when the image talk to me, it's a lot like when let's say you're an art aficionado or somebody, and you go to a gallery and you stand there and you stare at the art and you look at it and you're like, this invokes these feelings out of me, or this is how I interpret it, especially if it's like impressionistic. You're allowed to sit there and interpret it to how it feels to you. And that's a lot like what it is to be a tarot reader as well. And when a person does that, it's not just pure ego. I feel like there's something higher that helps them feel those, that connects to the image that they're looking at. And I think that's kind of something that tarot readers might draw upon, that same kind of connection between art and a higher form, a higher being. But anyway, so there could be some kind of journey, a passage, moving on, a healing happening here, and maybe possibly headed to the unknown. And as you move on and head into this unknown, at the other side is a Page of Cups. And the page represents lots of things, like it represents the young person, it represents the student, it represents knowledge, it represents information or a message. In my deck, it represents pillow talk, like the romantic words, the endearments that people say when they're starting to connect, after they connect, and maybe they've, that, like, that transition phase between between dating and being boyfriend and girlfriend, I think, or how, like, use that term generally, a committed couple, let's put it that way, a flirtate, or between dating and a committed couple, there is, because it could be boy, boy, girl, girl, and all sorts of things in between. I'm not trying to be gender specific here. But in part of me, if it comes out that way, because it's just plain, upbringing and tradition, and I'm adapting. All right, so a committed couple here. So the commitment hasn't arrived yet. We're at the stage where there's pillow talk, where there's words of endearment, where there's the words of endearment kind of represent like belonging, like a belonging to each other. Like when you call somebody baby or babe or honey or sweetheart, it's like, you are my sweetheart. You're the heart that belongs with my heart. There's a lot of terms of endearment, like dear, and a lot of them can get misinterpreted, and some of them are used too judiciously, or I should say too loosely, and they need to be more specific to a romantic situation, or one that's becoming romantic or becoming committed. So I feel like, but that's what's happening here anyway. Somebody's starting to talk to you like that, or you're talking to somebody, or you're talking to each other that way, and it starts to evolve. Like, I think the commitment starts to evolve from the way you speak to each other in a way that seems like you belong together, It also is, to me, is like the courtship, the sweet things that a person says and does when they're around you, like, you look beautiful today. Here, I got you some flowers. This is kind of traditional. I like that very much. So this kind of connection here is not, it's not a fast and furious. It's very courtly. But even in the courtship, there is almost, you can see in this picture, this desire, this magnetism, this eye-to-eye contact, this inability almost to not touch each other, but being courtly enough not to go too far too soon. So I like that. It's kind of like letting something develop naturally, because that's what this is. The Six of Swords is letting it develop naturally and not moving too fast too soon. But the connection is obviously there, and then before the actual commitment comes, there's going to be a lot of words that sound like commitment, or a lot of words that sounds like you belong together, you know? So it's definitely a beginning of things. It's an artistic, sensitive, sentimental understanding. It's the language of love. It's your intuition. And for some people, it can actually be a proposal, moving into the actual words of, will you marry me? It could even be the actual words, I love you, you know, moving into those special words. And it could also be just part of the courtship, somebody reciting a poem to you and saying, I wrote this for you, or a song for you, or something like that. So I like that. I like that. I love love when it's lovely. So yeah, beautiful words of endearment, and I hope you like that. Thanks, Justin Pixie.